Welcome to Pathmonk Presents, the place where business owners and marketers share their insights on digital growth. In every episode, we discuss real strategies, why they worked, and also why they didn't. Get insights from real experience and save yourself a whole lot of time and money. Let's get to it right now. Before we get started with today's episode, let's have a quick look what Pathmonk is all about. If you're winning leads, demos, or sales through your website, then Pathmonk might be interesting for you. Pathmonk is an extension to your website. It watches each visitor as they're moving through your page. And it builds up their interest in your product or service in real time to deliver a great uplift in conversions from your website. Usually, the buying journey can be divided into stages: awareness, consideration, and decision making. Pathmonk figures out in which stage a given visitor is by watching every action that they do on the website. And it provides them with micro experiences, such as notifications, case studies, introductional videos, helping them to move to the next stage in the buying journey towards a conversion. Let's jump into today's episode. In today's episode of the Pathmonk Presents podcast, I have an interesting guest here with me today. I'm with Kate McQuade, and she's hailing over from the team at P360. At P360, they're connecting Pharma and HCPS in a digital-first world. And we really want to deep dive what that really means, how it impacts the customer experiences, and how their engagement suite is being used as well by their customers. And of course, since it's the Pathmonk Business Podcast, we're talking about growth, the website, and all that comes to marketing. So, Kate, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Lucas.
Of course. So maybe give us a 360 overview. What is P360 all about in your own words?
Sure. So P360 is a pharma tech company, and basically we enable communication between HCPs and the pharma industry. So there's a lot of different use cases for that and several different avenues that you can go with that. One of our devices that we have, which is Switten's, which is more of a lab use. That's more for if it's a physical device that could go into a lab setting, that if someone while they're working needs more equipment or needs more samples or something for their process, they can press a button and it directly communicates within a platform. We also have Zing, which is an HCP texting communication that enables the pharma rep to speak with HCPs in a seamless manner, as well as their office staff. And that can be something as simple as scheduling, as QR codes, signature capture, getting up-to-date documentation that's compliance regulated. So those are direct communications with that HCP and making that flow in a more smooth manner. Mm-hmm. And then the other side of the business is we have more of the back end. So we have Birdseye, which is that really larger, robust master data management platform. And that can take all these different silos of data and put them all in one place that can spit out through AI and ML to have usable data that you can analyze and create some automation both in your sales force as well as your marketing. So all of those come together that help with communications between multiple different avenues and HCPs.
I understand. So what would you say, which types of organizations, like obviously, there's a spectrum and size and numbers of employees, and, when does it make sense to, leverage something like P360?
Sure. So we actually can handle any size of company. So usually our sweet spot is somebody who's a pharmaceutical company that's anywhere from a couple hundred, and then working all the way up to tens of thousands. So It obviously the bird's eye that you're dealing with, that large data management, a lot of times you're dealing with much larger firms, because then you start dealing with multiple streams of management. So in a hospital setting, for an example, you would have maintenance issues for the actual hospital itself. You would have patients with their certain compliance going on there. You have doctor to doctor, you have pharma rep to doctor. I mean, there's all these different streams of data coming in, and you obviously need to make sense of it. So you're going to have the larger companies that would be a target in those instances.
I see. Now, who would you say for such a sort of, a big decision for an organization like that to make, who brings in the technology into the team? Who's the champion within, let's say, a pharma company that wants to bring in 360? Is it from the upside? Is it from the customer experience side? Is it from the C-suite? Who brings the product in?
That's a great question, and it actually can vary. So we're very big in our marketing with persona-based marketing. So we've really segmented our lists into really understanding those different needs based on those personas. So the C-suite is going to look for something that's more solving something from a strategic manner, as well as probably more focused on the bottom line. And then, of course, we still target the IT crowd, the IT liaisons, or the innovation think lab type of employees. They're going to be looking from those problem solvings from the actual technical standpoint. So all across the board, even the salespeople are going to be looking at it differently. They want to have the ease of use, that they can see it and feel it and touch it and make their job easier. So all of those kind of roll together. Ultimately, you're going to have somebody in the C-suite typically making those decisions, but it doesn't mean that you can't entry level and start those conversations in one of those different avenues. And that's why it's really important to talk to all of them and to make sure that you're targeting those types of personalities and their wants to be able to meet all their needs.
Mm-hmm. And what would you say, how do these folks learn about P360? Or in other words, what are the client acquisition channels throughout their journey that you guys leverage?
Sure. So we do a lot of social media, advertising, as well as promotion. So a lot of it is brand awareness that we put out there. We also, of course, do advertising online. We have a strong email campaign that we run. And then, of course, we have outreach too. So whether that's going on podcasts or participating in webinars, whether it's internally or with partnerships that we have, and really just kind of having thought leadership and our content out there, because I'm a big believer in that marketing of any business is just like the Olympic rings, that my network is one of the rings and your network is one of the rings, and they overlap with some, might have some of the same contents, but the more I can educate you about it, then your ring will overlap with somebody else, and it just goes on in infinity. So it might just be a barista that you're talking to about your product today, but tomorrow they may be somebody who's a decision maker in a company that you want to talk to.
I see. That makes a lot of sense. Now, you mentioned content and the importance of content. What role do you attribute to the website overall in the journey? Like, how do you think about the page?
So I really look at it as that's part of the storytelling. And even though you have all these different channels you're talking about, whether it's email or, face-to-face marketing, or you're having these social media pushes, all of those, you really need to focus on that omni-channel marketing so that the customer is going on this journey and having a similar user experience no matter what they're looking at. That at the end of the day, you're leading them to that website to finish that journey and that storytelling so that they can actually talk to a person. Statistically, they've been finding that it's something staggering. It's like 91% of people are doing the research before they even get to you online. So if we can put the content out there from all these different sources and do that research for them, do them comparisons, let them know what those feature sets are and why they're important to solve their needs, then by the time they actually talk to us, they're pretty far along that sales journey. We just really have to corroborate what they're already thinking and really lead them to that, just crossing over that final little bit of it.
It's interesting. You mentioned these stats, like 90% is happening on their own research. A lot of it is more digital. The buyer journey becomes basically, a lot of self-education online. Where do you see sort of for the website at the moment, sort of a strength, of the website for the buyer's journey versus where do you see room for improvement? Like, every marketer we have on the show, they're always very critical with their website, but maybe give us sort of a glimpse into, where do you see strengths in the page versus maybe further development or improvements?
Sure. So I think one of the pitfalls you can fall into as a marketer is to just rest on your laurels. I tell my team all the time that what works today won't work in 6 months, and what worked 6 months ago won't work today. It's the exciting thing about marketing, and it's also the tricky thing. So you've got to stay on top of it. So in that same thinking, that's what we do with our website. So we just went through a big revamp, just launched in May, and reworked some of the features in there, updated, some of the interactivity of the site, as well as, had some more content on there. So there's still definitely always work to be done. But I think just getting that feedback from both clientele that we already have, giving feedback from, analysts or consultants, and really making those moves and pivot, that's really just kind of keeps you ahead of the game. So it's never done with your website, but I think we have a strong point where we have a lot of CTAs on there, a lot of engagement, and we're seeing the feedback from that.
Yeah. You mentioned CTAs there. What's always quite interesting is maybe, it can be with P360, but maybe even in, previous roles for yourself. Like, what have you seen, like when it comes to tools, methods, approaches? What is helpful when it comes to lifting, that CTA completions, that conversions on the website? Anything that you've learned over the years that you found to be helpful?
Yeah. So with the caveat of what I just said, that things aren't always stable,
Cheers.
They are always going to shift. What we've really been finding recently, and I when I look backwards, hindsight being 2020, it's been pretty consistent throughout my career, is that the least amount of barriers nets the most amount of results. So those long forms that you spent hours over analyzing, and you're like, oh, we need the company, we need the email address, we need the this, that, you need 16 different fields. That's a deterrent to most people. So yeah, of course, we have one of those forms on our website, but that's not where people are filling them out. They're filling out on something that's very simple, where they can just put in their email address, and then it gets sent into our automation, and then our sales team to, of course, take that over and reach out. So once they get to that point, they don't want to give you, their fourth grade report card. They just want somebody to reach out to them, and they want to make it easy. So goes back to that standard in marketing, which is to keep it simple. So
it's very interesting, because the angle that you brought in is a quite interesting one. It's not necessarily always that they don't want to give the information; it's just not convenient.
Yeah.
So,
They could be in a hurry. They could be in between meetings. They could be waiting for someone to join a meeting, and oh yeah, I've got to reach out to them. And it's just, you want it to be fast and easy, and creating more of a barrier is a deterrent. They can get frustrated and then they leave. I mean, that's just what the numbers point to.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Very cool. Yeah, we talked about what you guys are doing. We talked about growth. We talked about the website a little bit. I would love to, talk a little bit about yourself as a marketer and learn a bit. What I think I would like to ask is, there's so much content out there, right? You could, for example, what you just mentioned, the topic of how many form fields, there's tons of articles and research on that. How do you personally like to educate yourself when it comes to marketing? Is there certain go-to places, peer groups, books? What do you typically do?
So I think no matter what you try to do, there's always something more. And I think it's really humbling to really understand that you can never know it all. So for me, I love to just kind of brush up on anything I can with Gartner. They're kind of a go-to for us, and kind of look at their statistics and their research. Those are important. I also like to keep my team abreast of any, trainings that are out there, whether it's through HubSpot, which we're a client of. They have some great trainings on there as far as different pieces that come up. Salesforce, of course, has some out there too. So just as much reading as you possibly can. And then just taking some, personal development for yourself, so you can see somebody else's angles, because it's really good to learn from other people's pitfalls so you don't fall into the same ones. And then just always keep in the back of your mind that you're reading a book or watching a course that was made a year ago. And so you got to take it with a grain of salt. So learn what you can from it, but also, be fluid.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense. Now, as we slowly approaching the end of the interview, I would have some rapid fire questions to get to know you and your journey a little bit better. You ready for those?
Sure.
What's the last book that you read?
Last book that I read, that was personal development or personal?
Up to you, whatever you want to name.
Well, I just started reading Great by Choice. So just started that one, which is, a marketing inspirational book. So that's what I'm reading right now.
Mm-hmm. What's one single thing that your company is focused on the most at the moment?
Agility. So one of the best things about P360 is that we're extremely agile and we are scalable to a customer's needs. So that's something we've given us so much success in the past, and that we really focus on in the future. So a customer has a problem that they think is impossible, and we're agile and we can meet them at that, even if it seems insurmountable at the time.
If there would be no boundaries in technology, what's the one thing that you would fix for your role as a marketer today?
Probably the understanding of where AI is going. I think there's a lot of misconceptions with that. And so just understanding kind of where the possibilities are and what that could mean for marketing, I think would be huge, and kind of level set everybody, because I've realized that a lot of people have different ideas about where that is and where that's going.
Yep, that makes sense. And the very last question would be, if today would be your very first day joining into a role in marketing, right? So get yourself back to all that very first role. What's the one advice you would give yourself for your journey?
would probably be to stay open-minded and always ask questions. I think early days, I was so focused on I've got to know it all and I've got to be right in my role. And it's really a collaborative effort. So really to ask for help for people who've done this a lot longer than you and kind of get their take on it, I think would speed up my process a little bit faster.
Mm-hmm. Kate, I really want to appreciate that you took the time with us today, and thank you for being part of this show. I want to give you the very last word. If somebody would be forgetting all that we discussed about P360 today, what's the one thing that they should remember?
They should remember that we are a scalable, agile company, and that we are here to, meet our customers' needs in anything they have to deal with communication and data.
Thanks a lot for being a guest on Pharma Presents.
Thank you for having me.